Welcome to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, where world-changing spiritual entrepreneurs come to deeply awaken the power within to bring forth their greatest purpose, to create massive awakened impact for millions of souls around the planet, while enjoying being in tune with all life and real wealth in all aspects of their lives. I'm your host, Daniel John Hanneman.
Hello. Hi, Daniel, can you hear me? Hello. Hello. Testing.
Hey there, everyone. Welcome. I am so grateful to have you here. We have another amazing guest. So we are rocking and rolling with Mariangela Parrodi. She's amazing. And I'm going to tell you about her briefly, and we're going to dive right into it. So she is an alchemist, transformational medical intuitive healer, naturopath, wellness leader, author, teacher, spiritual coach, angelic, ascended masters, and interdimensional shamanic channels. So she's connected in many, many levels of ways. It's beautiful. For over 30 years, Mariangela has practiced in the fields of energy medicine, biomedical science, naturopathy, holistic health, and meditation. She's the founder of Alkymia Energie Healing, a trademark system that is a spiritual system that eliminates limiting belief, removes blocks, reprograms the mindset, creating the connection, integration, transformation, which awakens sacred power and destiny. Mariangela uses her sacred alchemy process to bridge the gaps to move heart-centered clients through their challenges and accelerate them into their next level of passion, purpose, and prosperity. You can check her out at www.alchemy.com.au. Welcome to the show, Mariangela.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for having me on.
All right. So I just feel like, I just could almost, in a good way, okay? I mean, this is in a positive way, could almost just take a nap, let you take over, do all your shamanic work, and I'm going to feel amazing, and I'm feeling bliss, and it'll be amazing. So I just, but we want people to tune in, deepen and feel how amazing the energy is here, the field that Mariangela is creating, is already created coming into the show, I sense and feel and know, and that you are deepening into a deeper place with Mariangela. So thank you, Mariangela, for the energy and that energy vortex that just is in you, that's helping people to find that sacred center within them.
I love how that we can co-create together, and that you are a healer and I'm a healer, and together we're already, unifying that vortex or the matrix, so that anyone listening can already start to receive healing in just by, being present and hearing our discussion today.
Yes. All right. So let's talk a little bit about what we're talking about today. We're talking about basically the way I look at that, we're looking at the activation of your spiritual gifts and the keys to achieving, therefore, your successful destiny. I talk about these sorts of things myself a lot. So I'm very grateful to have this conversation with you, Mariangela. So tell us a little bit, what I'm really curious about is, can you tell us the briefer version of your own path of moving from your own blocks, stepping into your gifts and doing the work that you're doing today? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Of course. I was born in Chile, South America, and it was around the time there was a lot of political unrest. And so the culture of Chile at that time was fear. People were disappearing. Anyone that was speaking up was silenced. And so my father was Italian, and he'd left Italy at the time when Mussolini was in power. And so people were already silenced and disappearing at that time, World War II. So his family had left Italy to move to Chile, and then all this stuff was starting to happen. And so they were really feeling it's unsafe. We can't live here anymore. And so they chose to migrate to Australia. And so I was living in that environment. It's not safe. Everything's in fear. You can't speak to anybody. You can't trust anybody. And so when we started to move to Australia, we didn't know anybody. My family was quite insular. And so they still brought in that fear amongst themselves. And so my brother and I got consumed in that fear that it is unsafe. And so most of my dreams were about being chased. I was an empath, I didn't realize back then, and so I was already absorbing all that fear into me. So I had chronic tonsillitis, I had chronic fatigue, I was always anxious, I was depressed as a really small child. And I didn't realize that I'm just enveloped and consumed by all of this negativity. And so fast track a few years, my mum gets breast cancer, and then she recovers, and then she gets it 6 years later. And that's where my awakening started to happen. This rage, this grief, everything that I'd been building up within me started to sort of, it was like a dark night of the soul. You know, I was just in tears. What am I doing here? Why is this so bad? Why am I suffering? I have no friends. You know, all that constant dialogue just repeating in my mind, but I didn't realize it was all mine. You know, it was my parents, it was my grandparents. And so I'm carrying this genetic lineage of suffering and persecution, and it's in me. You know, she died when I was 19, and that was the beginning of me trying to find, how do I still my mind? How do I, recover from this anxiety? How do I find peace? Because, my mind was just racing. It wasn't until I moved from Sydney to Tasmania, little island at the bottom, surrounded by nature, that I realised, oh, okay, I really need the trees. I used to like being in the bush, but I never really understood what that meant for me. But surrounded by nature grounds me. I'm connected to the land, I'm connected to the mountains, and nature doesn't need anything from me. And I started to heal. I started to really tap into my healing abilities that was always there, but I was so consumed by this fear that I couldn't access it. So the development really started down here on this island, being surrounded by water. I'm a water sign as well. So it's like the cleansing, the purification began, these layers and generations of, fear and suffering started to be shed through, meditation and singing. Singing was a really big part of my recovery. I couldn't sing, I sang out of tune, but I found this holistic teacher that helped me to just tap into my inner sound, my voice. And through practicing with her, eventually this deep guttural sound came out of me, this voice that I didn't know was mine. It was an American Indian grandmother that came through. She was the Eagle Woman. And initially it scared me because I thought, that's not my sound. I don't sound like that. It was so deep and resonant. But that was the beginning of my shamanic channeling, basically. And that connection to the land helped to ground me, helped to take away a lot of my busy mind and the stress that I'd been consumed by. And over time, my healing abilities started to awaken. And when I had my first son at 33, he was born with multi-allergies to chemicals, to foods, to everything. He was an empath as well, but more highly sensitive than me, carrying a lot of past life trauma as well. So in my path to try and help him, I awakened more of my gifts, because my medical background helped me to really detail, okay, I've tried this, that wasn't working. I've tried this, that's not working. What is it that is actually happening for this boy? And in the medical, people could help me only to a certain extent, with his eczema, and then over time it was behavioural problems. So it was my development of how to really fine-tune my abilities to help him. He was my schooling, okay, that's not working. What else can I find? That's where I was able to tap in more to my past life abilities and, accessing all of that world so that I could help him heal. And so in bringing this child in with all this trauma, it helped to awaken and develop my abilities. And so everything I learnt with him, I've been able to apply to my clients to help them accelerate and, find their destiny and passion.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's amazing that you were able to come from the place you came from, and that, you experienced such a sense of being closed off from the stress of where you came from and what was going on. And then, you know, when you got in the right environment, the right location, and everything that supported you awakening into your gifts, and then you were able to utilize your son, you know, as like as beautifully as like for me, I almost see it as like a partnership you guys have in soul, right? It's like, okay, we're doing this thing together. We're bringing your gifts. I'm taking in the healing and like this beautiful thing. And then now, like you basically help others to navigate in a way a similar path. They feel like they're in the, like somebody is empaths, right? And so the area I specialize in too is like the empaths are feeling so much energy and I can't, how could I do anything with all this energy and stress I'm feeling? And then much less be able to utilize, like, I got this gift, it's a gift. Oh, are you kidding me? And then be able to translate it into a gift. And so that you walk that path gives you the opportunity now to share that you walked that path, to share, you know, how that can be done and how you've done it. So I think that's really, really extraordinary. And so can you tell us a little bit about that? How would you advise someone who's feeling so much? I see it all the time, like on Facebook, you know, groups for empath groups are all like, whoa, what's up in the energy and all this stuff. What would you suggest for someone feeling so stressed or heavy and so much energy? How do they deal with all that to actually even begin to find their gifts?
It's a multi-pronged process, really, isn't it, Daniel? You can't. It'd be great if we just could flick that switch, but it's our journey, isn't it, that we're supposed to find ourselves. So the first thing I would say is, you know, one of my primary tools is cutting the cords. You know, you have to be able to disconnect the energy that's holding you back from the past. That's, you know, the old story, that childhood story, that inner child of I'm powerless, I'm a victim, I have no control over my life. So we'll do it now. Yeah, we'll just, you know, ask to sever the negative cords that are holding you back from people, places and situations. So we're severing that. We're asking for a scissors or a sword or chainsaw, whatever's needed to sever the cords at the front of the body, above the head, behind the body, underneath the feet. And then we're asking to call back our soul fragments, because when we're in stress, our soul partially leaves our physical body and we can fragment parts of ourselves, and we leave them in places, or we leave them connected to people. So we want to be able to call that back in. So it's just the intention is really important as we connect to the divine and the earth, and we create that channel. When we're in that channel, we can harness anything is possible. So by retrieving the soul retrieval of the shamanic principles of calling yourself back is really important. Otherwise, we're in this empty vessel that's disconnected. You know, the whole thing is about connection. And as we call ourselves back, we are integrating more of ourselves that we have always had access to, but, you know, they're just fragmented elements.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, right? We have to get in our own energy field in a sense, right? And then come into our true centered essence and more and more, and then we can start to access those gifts. I just got off a phone call with someone who, yeah, she's got so much, there's so much stress in the system that she wouldn't be able to begin to understand at the moment anyway, like, wow, you really have a lot of gifts. Like those gifts could be active and you could be naturally attracting things into your life just from the pulse of your being. And not to mention you could be clairvoyant and, you know, utilizing that in a centered, you know, full way and your full potential and all those sorts of things. And yeah, what I find is that you're right. I think that's huge. That's what I talk about too. We have to be done with this idea like we're just being victimized by the energies and we don't even want to live here anymore. Well, just take us to the next dimension. We need to ascend. And yeah, we're sure going to cut all those cords and I'm taking my body with me. And a lot of people are wanting to escape. And I don't know what your view is on this, but yeah, like just get me out is basically like when we, in my opinion, we need to come in, right? So like, that's like the idea of escaping is about coming in to come back home. And then all the other stuff, everything can happen from there. So anyway, so I'd love to hear your perspective on that, around people like, oh man, I just want to be out of here, because there's a lot of sensitive beings that just at a deeper level, they may not all know it, but I know a lot of them do. They just don't even want to be here. So can you tell us more about your perspective and what encouragement you could give people, or what tools you could give them?
That's a really important part, is when you're in that mode of wanting to escape, you are being powerless. You want someone else to save you. You want it to be rescued, whether it's through death or being taken away, or just the whole life, disappearing. But it's part of our initiation process. We are facing all these challenges. It's part of that journey, and we have to face that with the courage within us that is there to help us step into our next greatest version. So it's seeing it as just the next step, as it's moving out of that comfort zone into the next phase. I think when people are so overwhelmed, they're so far out of their body that they make it bigger than what it is, instead of being in that center. Usually they're off center, and so then that's why it's so overwhelming, because they're disconnected from everything. They haven't got access to their source or their divine channel or their earth channel, and so that's why it feels bigger and worse than what it is that they need to escape. Because once they're in that connection, they can actually access everything that's within them. And so it's about noticing the words, the dialogue that's coming up, that inner child. So I think that's a big thing that I get my clients to notice, is what are you actually saying to yourself? If you want to escape, writing that down. Why is escaping important to you? What would that give you? And if that was the case, why can't you tap into that yourself? So by releasing this, cutting the cords to those words, and those words may not even be yours as empaths, lots of other people are wanting to escape. So if we're out of our body, we'll be connected to that global frequency all around the world, that everyone else that wants to escape. So they're tapping into this broadcast. And so then it's not just their own feeling, it's this collective energy of everyone else wanting to escape. And so that's why it feels harder, because they're not just connected to their part that they have to face, their initiation process. So example with my son, say with his eczema and not sleeping, and of course I wanted to escape that. I was so exhausted, I was so tired, but I had to just focus on the next day or the next hour, so that I could, just come back into my body and just stop the projection of life will be better at some point. Because that's what he's really taught me, is to be really grounded and connected here. Otherwise, we're projecting into the future that life is happier, but often we are still connected to a level of anxiety that is still not supporting us in any way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that even as we're deepening, I mean, there's always a level of that sort of energy we're connected to. I mean, if you don't feel any of it, then, namaste. So, but I know that I still feel anxious. I still feel nervous. I'm sure many people do. I mean, I'm sure you do. So, but it calms down, is what I tell people. It's not as bad as what, you've been used to. I mean, it's
definitely not as intense as it used to be. It's still there.
Yeah. And even then it could be big storms and moments and times, but you know what it's about. You're not confused by it anymore. You understand. You can be for me, it's like being able to be in observer mode of it still. At some level, you're just like, oh yeah, it's just energy coming in. I know how to work with it, or I know how to let it be, or whatever it is, all that stuff. So you get to understand more about what it is. Now, as people are unpacking or unloading or disconnecting or getting in more into their light being, however, there's so many ways of looking at it, right? It's all the same thing. But as they're doing that, there is that essence and that joyful, that joyful inner child, right? That lives within us, that jubilant spirit. And that knows everything's fine, everything's easy, and you could be a wizard, right? So that's what I am seeing. I know that's part of what I tend to bring people into, but I know that's definitely part of what you do. And so tell us more about how you help people to tap into those aspects, especially those fragments you talk about that people have let go of, and reconnecting with them, and with that inner child aspect that used to, I want to say almost used to know what it like to be fully awake and able to access everything and let everything be easy. So tell us more about how you go about helping people with that, or anything you could share about that subject.
So I would suggest about opening up the heart and the solar plexus primarily, sort of above the navel. And I use a lot of sacred geometry. It's from Egypt. It's a sacred geometry symbol. It's the interconnecting circles that create a hologram, a blueprint of health. And so it's always about the breath. It's always about that intention and calling that back in to unblock the chakras. And so, we're breathing in both directions, breathing out front and back, heart, as a way of unblocking that channel to really harness that love, that sense of joy that's really present and being in the moment, obviously, and then coming back down into the solar plexus and then breathing in both directions. And it's unblocking. It's like a funnel that's been, sealed up, and we want to release anything that's there just in the breath, and slowing down the breath, taking a breath in that for the count of 5, holding for 5, breathing out for 5, helps to come back into the moment, because when you're breathing like that, you can't be stressed. It slows the breath down. And so then it starts to awaken. I think it's because we have this perspective of what's wrong with the world, and we have to take those blinkers off and just start looking at, the joy of the flower, or just the gratitude is so important. We can talk about gratitude, but it's about deepening that and really having a breath into that heart to really acknowledge, the simple things: having a roof over your head, having running water, having a privilege of, a garage for your car. So many people in the world don't have that. So I think I bring that to my clients, helping them to see what is good in their world, because often they're so tunnel visioned into what's bad.
Exactly. Yeah, the gratitude is huge too. And thanks for the breath tip. And that is huge as well. And as far as with the gratitude, it's just, I find the more I take more time to just even lay it on thicker and thicker and thicker, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like gratitude. I mean, there's nothing quite like it. And it enters you into everything else you want: love, joy, and everything else. I feel it's a huge portal into all of it. And you can't overdo it. You can't overdo being grateful. It's really, truly embracing everything. And that's a huge need for people who are empathic and sensitive, for sure. We need to, otherwise it's just a constant, like, what's happening to me all the time, that victim stuff you mentioned before. So getting into that allows us to feel more of our essence then, and allows us to be more of who we truly are, and distills the fear. It gets us connected to who we truly are. Allows more of that sense of natural joy and fulfillment and love to come through us. So from there, I've kind of,
The other things I tend to use is singing. Singing and dancing is really important to awaken that joy as well, because they all are part of a vibration, and we're trying to upgrade the vibe with, the cells at the cellular level. So the toning, you don't even have to sing in tune at all. It's about making a sound to help unblock those layers that have been, stifled and suppressed. And so that frequency helps to oscillate the negativity out as well, to harness that joy. And in dancing, you don't have to be, amazing dancers. That connection to sound is so vital, I think, to just awaken and feel more of that joy and connection, and being free, so that nobody's looking at you. Just pop on some music, and just even for 2 minutes, that connects you back into the body. Because I think that's the biggest part that people feel that they why they're sad is because they're disconnected. They're sort of stressed and too much in their heads, or stuck in the past or the future, that they're not back in their body. And when they're in their body, that's where they will feel joy. So the breath, breathing, sounding, dancing, all connects you back to being here in the present.
Yeah, it's like some of these things are like, are like the basic things maybe we have heard many times, but the thing is we can't get enough reminders. You know, like every single time me and you are reminded as well, any of us are reminded, it helps us. We need that because there's constantly other signals coming to us. You don't have time for that. You need to do, you know, all that other stuff. You know, no, you don't, you can't do that. It's not time to be having fun. So it's always a good time to be joyful. It's always a good time to have fun. It's good time, always a good time to turn on some music and dance for a while, or all day long, whatever you want, suits you. So I said, just enjoy your frequency of who you truly are, and that brings you into that. And so I think like these reminders are so important, and it does automatically bring us back into the inner child. It brings us back to that natural joy. It takes us out of the fear and all that congested energy. So rather than worrying about, well, what is going out with the energies, why don't you just raise your vibration? I mean, a lot of times, honest to God, most of the time you can easily do that. Most of the time it can be rather easy. Sometimes it takes a little bit more, right? We need to do a little bit more, but often it's not that hard. And so I love that. And I'm kind of
I think
wondering,
it's about incorporating it throughout the day and not trying to find that half an hour and then the rest of the day feels a bit shabby. It's, you know, you want to try and find those 2 minutes throughout the day, you know, and linking them together so that you've got these pockets of the day that feel lighter, that you can, you know, you've got something to look forward to. You know, before I came on this call with you, I had music on and, you know, I was making some sounds just to, like, I've got to get into that zone myself before I can connect with you and connect with the audience. So I'm making a committed, conscious effort it's about that intention. Otherwise you can dance or you can sing, but before that, you've got to bring that intention in to say, I'm doing this because it will create a greater frequency for me. I'll be more aligned. I'll be more, you know, interconnected in my body. I'll be grounded. And so I think that's really a key important point there, is about the intention prior to any activity. Even having a simple cup of tea, I'm having this cup of tea, and in this moment I'm being present. I'm, you know, really tasting the liquid in my mouth, and that brings us back into who we are.
Mm-hmm. Now, how does all that actually awaken our spiritual gifts?
Well, when we're connected, we're aligned. We're not in the past or the future. So when we're here, present, we can actually start to receive those downloads. We can start to listen, have all the four senses: receiving, hearing, seeing, knowing, and feeling, that is for us, because often we're so disconnected. We might receive insights or for other people, or we might be contaminated because of other people. But when we're in that moment, we're joyful. That creative channel is where we receive healing, support, wisdom, and guidance. And then that begins to awaken our gifts, because there's a spark that starts to be woven through the body, awakening the chakras. That joy is that creative center that's going to open up both the heart and the solar plexus to start showing you, you know, the next idea. You know, I need to write a book, or I want to learn the piano, whatever it is, because you're in that moment. Otherwise, you're so disconnected in too many different places. The downloads are coming in here, but you're just totally missing it because you're not here.
You're not here now, right? You're not here now.
Yeah.
Exactly. We're who knows where we are. So our energy's all over the place. So we have to come back here now, and then that awakens us to, you know, our being connected, joyful. Yeah, having what I say, I like the idea of creating what I call more shower moments too. Like when you're in that stillness, that's what, whoa, I just got this idea, just dropped in. It's because you let go long enough to let the clear knowing to come through you. And then we can utilize that. You know, the process I use to help people to connect with their gifts is you raise your vibration before you go in to do work with people, and, you know, it'll come easier. So absolutely, as we raise our vibration, it's going to do that for us. And then, yeah, and my feeling is for you is that you really help people to go into real depth of connection. And I feel like a huge light team around you that's for you, but is also is that you're connected in a collective way with others. You help people call in their team into them. And that's my intuitive knowing about that. So Yeah, is there something you can share with us about that? Or is there a 2-minute experience you can give us? Or I don't know, like something you could share around that? That's really what interests me. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for noticing that I do have a big team that works around me. I think because I am multidimensional, I have different frequency guides that come in specific for different people and what they need. So I work in the interplanetary realm as well as the shamanic realm. So I think there was one experience I remember going back to Chile. I hadn't been back. It was like 40 years later. I'd turn up my cousin's house, and they have all the pictures on the walls of the family members that have passed, and they do their daily prayer and they speak to their ancestors all the time as if they're still alive. And I thought, this is really interesting. And that night I was trying to go to sleep, and all the Italian ancestors are there talking to me in Italian. I said, I don't understand you. You have to speak to me in a different language. And they were saying they were there to help me and to help the family. And so that was really interesting. And so when I traveled to Peru, I met this woman. I went into her shop, and it looked like she had a really amazing altar behind her. And I said, is that an altar? My broken Spanish, and she said yes. And because it was a condor wing, and it had other feathers there, and corn, and this beautiful woven cloth, and there was llama bones there. And she said her husband was a shaman, but she was really scared of him. And I said, well, the altar felt a bit funny, it felt strange. And she said she was worried that her husband was not quite right. And so I did a healing on her, and I brought in the ancestors, and I brought in my light worker team and the angelic realm, and she could really feel that. I had my little dictionary out, and I was sort of translating for her, and the next day she felt really so much better and gave me a crystal as an exchange. So I think I can tap into different frequencies when they're needed to be able to facilitate the healing for whoever needs it. If they're, somebody in the back room of a shop, or, if they've worked, because I do have other clients that are from different planets, or their soul frequency. And so that's a different, the angelic realm sure, it can support them, but you definitely need a different frequency to be able to access the specific healing people do need for that, vibration that they bring in. Does that make sense?
Right. Totally. Yeah. I mean, and it's interesting, as you were talking, after I noticed that your vibrations changed, like the new frequencies starting to drop more into you right in this moment. Right. So it's really cool to notice. And I know if I notice, I know some of my listeners will notice, like they'll feel your frequency shifting. And so part of what you do is who you are is, again, it's got some resonance to how I am, is your frequency will tend to move into a vibration that will be most supportive to whatever the situation is. And so that's something I pick up on you, and I see in myself, like, ooh, there's a new vibration there now. And like, so I just noticed that, and it's a beautiful thing. Now, as you, it's and then it, like, that would be true. So for, again, so many people that are listening that are empaths and sensitives, they're doing the same thing. So I guess what I'm trying to get to next is, you talk about people successfully living their destiny and all that. How is the things we're already talking about, and anything else you can share with us? I mean, first of all, to me, this is foundation. All the things we're talking about, getting all the stuff with energy, right? And then you're following your intuition, all that stuff. But then how do we successfully, what are some keys you have to people successfully, reaching their highest potential, they're living their destiny, all that sort of stuff? What, do you have some tips around that?
Well, we have at least 7 gifts that we're going to work with. So the crown is the spiritual teacher, the channel to the divine, the oracle, having that intuition, or being psychic, clairvoyant, the messenger in the throat, the speaker, the writer, being on stage, the heart, the empath, the healer. Solar plexus is the warrior, the advocate, taking a stand for others, being the leader. In the sacral, it's about creativity and connections with people and birthing projects and ideas. And the base chakra is the shaman. So often we some people might just have one gift, but I know that I have multi-gifts, and a lot of my clients that come to me have multi-gifts. So I'm helping them awaken all of their abilities so that together they're amplifying all of their skills. And so the key is to just keep clearing those chakras, and I like to work with the cycles of the seasons and the moon, because, you know, with each phase, we're sort of stepping to a new frequency as we're releasing another layer that's holding us back from the past. And by unleashing those shackles from the past, whether they're, you know, absorbed from others or past lives, we're starting to step into more of what we're here to do. So for me, you know, my greatest fear is public speaking. You know, I would shake, I couldn't speak, I had a tiny, tiny voice, you know, got thrown out of, I wasn't even allowed in the choir because my voice was so small. So my father was Italian and very domineering. So my whole journey has been about facing my greatest fears, you know. So I do work with the medicine wheel. And so that's the fire element, to bring up, you know, what you're worried about facing, and just taking the next step to that, because that's what our destiny is. You know, we often we're going to be scared by what we don't want to do, so we close down and decide, no, it's too hard. But as we stretch into the new comfort zone and release the shackles around that fear, then we're able to step more into that. And so over my experience of trying to speak up, especially around dominating superior people that I often attracted as an empath, and learning to sing was part of, you know, one of those downloads. You need to learn to sing. So I find the teacher, and then my channeling starts to come through that. And then, you know, once technology started to happen and I'm working with my groups, I got encouraged. I've got to do stuff online. I didn't want to do stuff online, you know, doing, you know, video like this used to be, I was petrified. I was sweating. I'd go to the toilet all the time beforehand. And eventually, because I started to create my online groups, creating videos for them was part of my journey, was part of me exploring my greatest fear, you know, my speaking ability. So that's how my awakening happened, is sort of facing them over each step. And now over time, I'm much more comfortable on video and being myself, and not disconnecting in that moment and thinking, you know, what will people think? So I've had to face a lot of these initiations or challenges as part of the awakening for my destiny. And so a lot of my clients, I help them to just, okay, what's the next step for you? What are you facing? What's the fear that you're worried about? And then we unpack wherever that's coming from, whether it's inherited or past lives or just not theirs, they've absorbed. And that way they're able to just to take the next incremental step and not too far into the future. Because often, I know I've always had, you know, these images of being on stage, and that used to petrify me because I didn't have the capacity to be on stage back then. And I would sort of push that away and think, no, that's impossible, because that future vision was too far in the future for me. And so now when I ask for information or guidance, I like to break it down to something manageable. You know, it might be 3 months or a year ahead, so that I know what I'm working towards, and I can stay more connected in my body and grounded, thinking, okay, that's my next 12-month vision. I know what I need to aim for. I've got the tools that I can support myself in, and I know I've got to face some challenges on that 12-month journey, but I've got everything, all my tools, you know, my capacities to be able to face that. So I think that some people can get caught too far in their destiny and want that shiny object, or everything will be better once you've reached that. But it's all the steps along the way that makes that journey possible, because often we can get to a particular point that we think, yeah, that was what I was always aiming for. I've reached that now. What else am I supposed to do? And then the next door opens. So, you know, even though we're thinking we're aiming towards a particular place, once you start moving on your journey, that can start to change and open up to new possibilities.
Yeah, there is that illusion that there's some endpoint to all these things. And in a way, maybe there's some truth to that, but in other ways, it's largely illusion. Like, eventually, I will awaken. Well, you're already awakened. So, but it's a matter of awakening to the awakening. eventually I'll do my big purpose in this world, and there I am, I just did it. Check it off the list, we're done. Like it's a static moment, like people that say, like, let's save the planet, let's wait, everything's gonna get a kumbaya, light and planet. Okay, now, like one speaker I heard say, like, okay, freeze it now, don't move anybody. Like, like it's crazy, you know. It's like we're already fully awakened. The whole planet's fully awakened. It's just a matter of dropping into the energy of that so we can experience it. That's all. And then there's always another adventure. There's always a deepening. And the minute you think it can't get any better, in a sense, you have an experience of things, in a sense, getting better, you know, or deepening. So, like, there is no end point, you know, even the idea like, well, eventually all this crap, all my lifetimes is going to be over. I could find the best. Oh, take me now. And it's like, but we don't know. We don't know where it's all going for sure. I know all souls are heading into the light, into wholeness. And then, you know, then we evolve from there, though. We have the evolution energy just continues to evolve. So I love that you brought that up. There is no end point. It's constant evolution. Embrace the moment now, because you know what? It's not going to last. It's amazing and beautiful and perfect as it is right now. And we'll cha-cha-cha from there. So anyways, I appreciate that so much, and that you've moved through so many of your fears and doubts and concerns, like I have and others have, that are shy, sensitive, introverted, have different fears and stuff. And sometimes you just do need to take the actions in order to fulfill your destiny. And even when some people say, well, I need more clearing first, just give me another clearing first. And it's like, sometimes you just got to do it. Just go do it. Like I said to my client today, he said, yeah, I'm like, so now you're not going to come to me the next time, say you didn't do it because of your subconscious stuff, or because, you know, the moons and the stars and this or that way. Like, so I got him to promise he wouldn't come back to me with that. He'd just take the action finally. And, you know, so that's part of what I'm hearing you say too. Sometimes part of it isn't all this other stuff, which is so deep and amazing and vital, but sometimes it's literally just taking the action that we have to take, isn't that?
Definitely. I think I just remember recently finishing a 3-month group, and one of my clients had been on that roller coaster for 5 years of thinking, I'm going to be a healer and do everything, and I've got to do another course. And, you know, she was just on that loop. And then, you know, I called her out quite a lot at the beginning of the course, and I said, you just got to do it. You know, you just got to do it. We've gone through all of these fears and worries and hurdles, and you just, you know, I had to push her off. I had to just say, you're doing a healing within this group, you're doing a video, I want to see you. And by the end of the 3 months, she was, you know, she was flying, you know, she was charging people, she had people ringing her up, and it was just like, yeah, she was really grateful. But, you know, I did hold her hand, I was firm, but I was loving. But, you know, you just got to do it. Otherwise, we can just constantly sabotage that. And, you know, as you said, so many other excuses that come up. But at the end of the day, that's that fearful little child that can, that we need to observe within ourselves. And from a detached perspective, just notice the dialogue of that little wounded version of ourselves that is so fearful. And the more we put that version to the side and stay in our aligned and our strengthened version, that's the one that carries us forward, not the other one that we often let control our thoughts and our actions. So that's a big component, I think, that I work with, is putting, you know, the little child. I use the Violet Flame of Saint Germain to sort of manage that version of us that can be quite fearful, so that we're bringing healing, but containing that version so that they're not fully in charge of how we see the world.
Yeah, there's a quiz that you have to help people to move through the stress they have, I see here, and also the opportunity for people to potentially maybe meet with you to get a transformational session for free, it says here. So yeah, I was wondering if you could briefly share about that opportunity right now, and then we'll continue with our conversation.
So I've got a free quiz that just takes you, it's really short, but it's fun, and it just puts you in a different category of what your archetype is and the actual strength that you can tap into to help you move the stress, help you to move through those challenges and initiations, so that you're more aware of what strengths you do have to take you into the next step. And so with that, it just helps you navigate your destiny more easily, because you're more aware of what you can tap into for yourself. And then at the end of that, you have an opportunity to schedule some time with me, half an hour with me, just to work out what the block is and what your next step is to help you move forward. So that would be great. I'd love to support more people, just to, because we, you know, we're all working together. We all want to raise the same, we're all focused on the same thing. So I think the more people we wake up and are resonating with how to help themselves, then, you know, the world's going to be better.
Yeah, so that's the stress solution quiz, and we'll put a link in the show notes. And of course, you always can learn more about her at www.alchemy, that's alkymia.com.au. All right, wonderful. Take advantage of that for sure. My God, to spend more time in Mariangela's energy field alone, you gotta do that. So, all right. So, Mariangela, what are some other things, as we're beginning to start to wrap up this show a little bit? What are some other things people can do to call in more support when they're feeling so overwhelmed by all the energies they might be feeling and stressed out and all that sort of thing? What are some other things they can do?
As I said, I'd like to use the Violet Flame of Saint Germain. And so often we've projected a lot of fear into the future. And so because there's that future fear, we fear that we're going to step into that future obstacle. So I'd like to breathe in the flame and become the flame. And so as we do that, we take the breath, the exhalation, we send that out into the future, burning off all of the obstacles we've projected, that all the negatives that might happen. And that way it opens up this future into a clean slate. Then we ask to call in the people, places and situations that are going to start to contribute to us. And so with that breath, we open up the heart and allow that energy to come to us, so that we are deserving a greater opportunity. Often we're cut off from our capacity to receive because of what's happened to us in childhood or as empaths. And I like to use this statement: I choose to receive at a higher level I haven't had a capacity for until now. And every day I asked to say that statement, because every day I'm choosing to receive at a higher level. There's an infinite amount of receiving I can choose and everyone else can choose. And that we're asking to breathe that up through our hands into our heart. And that by doing that, we're receiving for us, because often as healers or empaths, we are givers, and our capacity to give far outweighs our capacity to receive. And so when we're asking to receive for us, we are dialing up, because often that's a big thing I notice, my clients are only receiving about 20%. Often they are there to support everybody else, and their capacity is quite reduced. So by saying that, I'm also bringing that up through the earth, that I'm standing on a more stable, solid foundation of receiving, that the earth supports me, that life supports me, that spirit supports me, and that I'm allowing that in every day, higher and higher. And that each season I ask to change that, because we, get up to a certain level and then we think we've reached the top, but then, say, I think you're in autumn, I'm in spring, we're in a new frequency. So we're starting to dial that up for, the new beginning of that level to receive whatever that season is bringing in for us. So that's a big thing as we choose to open the next doorway, the future doorway, so that what was possible on this level is so much greater in the next season, so that we are always receiving more, because we're allowing ourselves, because we're supposed to be helping other people and thriving. Otherwise, we're in that scarcity and that struggle mode, and falling off our path and going off that alignment again into difficulty. So that's a big key that I do for myself and other people.
Great. And so one of the things I love too, what you're sharing, is around the seasons, that you're really a part of what you really focus on. And so I love that idea of like, well, we need to, it's almost like planting the harvest now. So in the next season, it's even better then. It's like all this momentum. And I think that's really exciting for people. Like, listen, yeah, you're going to go into winter next, but right now, this is the opportunity in this season, right? So I love that. So it said, prepare, you'll be it's such a much better place in that next season. And when you do the work you're here to do now in this season. And so I think that's really beautiful, because that's true. There are all these frequency changes on many levels, including the seasons. And so I love that you work with that, help people understand, you teach about that. That's not something I think a lot of, probably less people talk about that than maybe you even realize. So not a lot of people talk about that. But anyway, so that's great. And so I was also, I'm curious, like, one of my little things with the show is to kind of question things a little bit, even if I have a belief in it. So how do we know, like, okay, here's the crazy question of the day. How do we know something like Saint Germain? What the heck's that all about? How do we know this stuff's even real? We're calling in flames of light and this and that. How do we know it's even real? I mean, come on. I mean, is it just your imagination? I mean, come on. I'm just give you the opportunity to talk about your truth about all that.
Wow, Daniel, thank you for putting me on the spot. Well, okay, it's an ascended master, and even if you don't believe in ascended masters, it's a frequency. So violet is a light frequency. It's a wavelength, and if you look at the color spectrum, they all have different frequencies: red, blue, green, white. Violet is quite a purifying frequency, and even if you don't believe in the flame, your intention is with your breath just to breathe in purple, breathe in violet, and that frequency has a vibration, has a tone, has a way of changing our molecular structure, our whole body intention changes. So it's a purifying, it's a healing color. There's been lots of research on it. Even aura photos have shown that, it's been registered as a frequency. Even if you put Saint Germain to the side, I just get a sense of when you bring in the flame, I can see it in my third eye. I can see the color changing me, even if you don't have that third eye vision. It's the intention is even important. So without the vision, it doesn't matter. It's the intention that's coming in, because your guides are channeling in that purification. I don't know if that's answered it enough for you.
That's good. That's good. I mean, come on, we even know guides are real. Come on, we don't know that it's so real. Come on. So, and there are teachers of awakening enlightenment that kind of steer away from that stuff a little bit, and they, you could play with that stuff, and they got people kicking their guides out. They talk about that. I had to get rid of them all, and it's a huge subject. We could go on for. We don't have time to do that today, but I actually, again, I put people on the spot on these things so we can actually illuminate more of the truth that's in it. I'm the same way. I believe that it's about the intentionality of it, and it doesn't matter in the energy we're picking up from it, right? So it's like, it doesn't matter if it's in our minds it's real or not. It doesn't matter. It's about the frequency of it. And I always say that about past lives too. When I read people's past lives, I say, it doesn't matter if this is real or not. It's just the energy that's picking up about you. And so that's what matters. So thank you for doing a great job of sharing about that whole subject there. So I appreciate you playing with me. Okay. All right. So the last thing is, do you have any last, words or suggestions for the audience, for those that are sensitive, want to tap into their gifts and, achieve their successful, achieving their greatest destiny, I want to say?
I think the last thing would be about protection. And people, I'd like to use filters so that we're, just not a sponge and absorbing everything from, everybody else, that we're filtering the energy a little bit more so that we are receiving support and just pushing away some of that, negativity that's around us. So the filter, again, is just an intention. You can imagine a crystal around us as we're, just, especially because I'm a water sign, I sort of leak out. I don't have boundaries. And over my years of working, I've had to create a little bit of a container to hold my frequency so that way it's not leaking out. And most empaths are sponges, so that they really need to have stronger boundaries, you know, to people. I think having the intention of a liquid crystal, you know, whether it's clear quartz or violet or whatever color, just, you know, surrounding that outer edge, but it is porous, so that you are still connected to the land and the trees and the sun and the water, receiving support from the environment, but not absorbing, you know, the worries of the world and other people in your family.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. So great. Well, if you want to find out more about your archetypes and how to clear stress and all that stuff, you definitely need to check out Mariangela. I'm getting into the channel myself. Mariangela's. I can't talk sometimes when I have. She said that's strong energy here. So it's just stress solution. So we'll put again the link in the show notes. It's at the present time. It's a longer link, but we go ahead and then again you can check her out at www.alkymia.com.au, and it's ALKYMIA.com.au. Okay. So last thing, Mariangela, is just to take a couple minutes to just show my appreciation for you. Is I like to do this with my guests, is just maybe share. I've already been sharing some downloads I get about you, but like to share a couple of like a beautiful downloads, what I see for you and what I see unfolding for you. But I just want to ask permission again just to share something for 2 or 3 minutes. So is that okay?
Of course, thank you.
Okay, right. All right. So like I said, I feel like one of the things I got early in the call too is you really have this many things about you, but the one big thing that came to me is this the sacred womb energy that you carry. You know, you bring people into like the sacred womb where they do feel safe and protected, and they feel like they actually can start being who they really are, and where like the sense of having to protect their energy or act in different ways and all these, like they start to transcend that. And so you're bringing people, all souls, back home, you know, particularly the ones you're connected to help, but you're bringing them back into that. And it's like in your sacral chakra, it's like bringing them into that peace and that wholeness. And so I see that, and I see you really grounding and landing that more and more. So I think there's a tremendous amount of grounding that you do and need to continue to deepen in, is my feeling too. It's just a tip. If you're, just like a feeling I get, like grounding even more of that. And that, it's like a purifying process that's happening through your channel. And so it's just so beautiful, that's why I keep saying, Mariangela's energy, whoa, it's like a magnet of energy that's just, it's amazing. And I feel like, the more you're working in the energies and you're just calling in all the energy that you need, that you always have the solutions that people are looking for. And it's just a matter of continuing to move through your own wound of being able to share and speak and continue to move through that. It's like so huge for you. As you keep doing it, it's like as you keep strengthening that, and that you have so many miracles and answers for people that feel like there's no way I can find my way out of this. And you just hold them in a space and you have the answers and the solutions. So I feel like your opportunity is to continue to do what you're doing, and then your energy is going to keep expanding to reach more and more people. And I think there's definitely more courses coming for you. You're going to feel like there's angel courses or something if you don't already have them, but like I see these angel courses coming in, and definitely the book writings. I can see you like allowing yourself to be more of a celebrity too. Like I feel that's coming in. Like, oh, okay, I'll sign your book, like being able to be like casual about it, but like taking it in, right? So I feel all these things. So anyways, I just wanted to love you up and share some of the things I was noticing. And I'm tuning in. I'm just dropping in anyway. I may as well share it. So anyway, I just want to share those things with you. You've got such powerful energy to, such a powerful channel, I guess, is to help people and you're already doing it, and it's just, it's just continuing to expand.
Oh, thank you, Daniel. That was amazing. I feel really teary.
Wow.
teary happy because it feels true. Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Yay. Okay. All right. Okay. And so, and then just briefly, everyone, if you want to check out what I do, you can go to yoursacredpurpose.com. I've got a free meditate and make money meditation to help you to ground and land with your energy and your intentions each day, and how to meditate and make money PDF. And the other thing is you can have the opportunity to receive one of my energy scans. But you just need to apply for it. It's right there at yoursacredpurpose.com. If you feel like you're a world changer, or you want to really maximize your potentials and your gifts, I'm here for you, and you can check it out at yoursacredpurpose.com. All right, great. So anyway, so I'm just so grateful to have had you today, Mariangela. And I just wish everybody such infinite blessings, that you've received so many infinite blessings just by being here today. And we look forward to keep rocking it on here at Spiritual Rockstar Radio. And that's all for today. Peace, love, and blessings. Namaste. Goodbye for now.
Wow, what a pleasure to have you join us today. Thank you so much for listening to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Stay tuned for our next upcoming new episodes each Wednesday and Saturday. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review to help us to serve you best. As a reminder, you can get your free Meditate and Make Money meditation at www.yoursacredpurpose.com to rock your sacred purpose. Goodbye for now, everybody.